Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking some seriously dense philosophy, specifically this wild idea that you and the world around you aren't actually separate things, and we're going to transform that into highly practical tools for your everyday emotional resilience. Seriously, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by your own reactions, or you've ever wondered why certain people just push your buttons so easily, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down some truly profound concepts into a clear, usable structure. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a massive question straight from our source material. This is one of those questions that, once you really grasp the answer, it's going to completely shift how you view reality itself. Ready? What is the exact distance between you, as the perceiver, and the object you are perceiving? Just think about that for a second. Keep that tucked in the back of your mind as we get started today.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the source of attention, then move on to consciousness as the creator, entering the guest house, the dynamic of the adult and the child, and finally the art of skillful living. We're basically starting way up in the abstract cosmos of the mind and landing right in the kitchen of our daily relationship conflicts.
All right, Section 1, the source of attention, finding the ultimate reality.
Let's start by actively turning our attention away from external objects. Usually, our attention is just darting all over the room, screens, sounds, other people, but our source invites us to rest our attention back into its own source. Think about the sun and its rays. The rays of your attention simply cannot shine without that ultimate source, exactly like how sunshine requires the sun. When you trace your attention back to where it comes from, you aren't creating some new movement. You're really just finding the quiet, invisible engine behind everything. Our source actually compares it to the oxygenation of your body. You can't see it happening, right? But it's quietly energizing your heartbeat and your senses entirely behind the scenes.
So, a quick clarification. When we use the word reality in this explainer, we mean the absolute bottom line where the buck stops. It is the ultimate source where there is absolutely nothing else preceding it. Because if you say, well, there's a reality behind consciousness and another behind that, it just never ends. Reality is simply the foundational awareness itself. It's that which knows it is aware.
Moving right along to Section 2, consciousness as the creator and the zero distance.
What is really fascinating here is the exact mechanism of how consciousness actually creates our daily experiences. It's not just a passive observer sitting back and watching. It is highly active. Our source outlines 4 aspects of reality: conception, creation, perception, and destruction. But here is the massive paradigm shift. While we have to use linear words to describe these steps, the source notes they actually happen simultaneously. They do not happen in time. It's not like drawing up architectural plans and then eventually building the house. It's totally spontaneous. It's like a big bang occurring continuously, over and over, in the timeless present. This means you aren't just reacting to a pre-existing world. Your awareness is actively building it.
To really hammer this home, we need to clear up a super common misconception. It is a complete myth to think the world is like a physical stone just waiting in a dark room until the flashlight of your awareness happens to shine on it. No, our source argues that consciousness conceives and perceives at the exact same moment. You aren't stumbling upon pre-existing experiences. Your awareness is actively generating the experience of them in real time.
Therefore, getting back to our big question from earlier, the distance between you as the perceiver and the object you are perceiving is exactly zero. Literally zero. You are always experiencing your experience. There's no actual gap there. That feeling of distance, it's really just part of the incredible, playful manifestation of consciousness.
Okay, Section 3, entering the guest house, meeting your emotions. Because look, it's great to know reality is zero distance. But what happens when you're just incredibly angry? How does this philosophy hold up when we have to handle the intense, messy emotions of the human dream? To anchor this, we're looking at the legendary 13th century poet Rumi. In his famous poem, he invites us to view our human vessel as a guest house. Every single morning brings a new arrival, and our job as the innkeeper is to honorably welcome and entertain every single one of them.
So whether your unexpected visitor is a fleeting joy, a heavy depression, a dark thought, or sheer malice, the invitation is to meet them at the door laughing. I know, easier said than done, right? But why? Because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Even if they violently sweep your house completely empty of its furniture, they are clearing you out for some new delight. You don't get to pick and choose. You don't get to only welcome the happy guests.
But honestly, doing that is incredibly hard because our conditioned bodies hold on to old, frozen wounds.
If your conditioned mind frequently feels like a cat frantically running around with the zoomies, triggering into sudden fear or anger at the slightest provocation, deliberately slowing down is absolutely key. Slowing down allows these heavy guests to enter at a manageable rate so you don't feel entirely overwhelmed the second they arrive. To handle these visitors, our source uses a wonderful metaphor. When you cook a meal, you need fire. Once the meal is cooked, you don't need the fire anymore. Even painful experiences and really difficult relationships are merely the fire required to cook your meal. It's an invitation to meet all of your life with presence, because ultimately, love loves everything.
Which brings us to Section 4, the adult and the child navigating reactivity.
When these difficult guests knock on our door, it forces us to ask who inside of us is actually interacting with them, because the reaction we have usually dictates the entire outcome. Our source suggests we view this internal dynamic as the adult and the child. The adult represents pure consciousness. It brings wisdom, grace, and this untroubled embrace. The child, on the other hand, represents our conditioned reactivity. It carries old wounds and feels easily threatened by the world. The goal is for the adult to address the child calmly, saying, "I'm here, you safe, I'm not suffering, and I love you."
Let's put this into a highly relatable example from the source. Imagine you're driving and you brake late at a red light. If your spouse criticizes you for it, boom, the wounded child gets instantly defensive. You feel completely threatened. But if you had hired a driving instructor and they used the exact same words to correct your braking, you'd be completely grateful. Why is that? Well, with the instructor, you're the adult receiving neutral feedback. But with the spouse, someone you have a long-term lease with, old conditioning is triggered and the child feels like it's under attack. Finally, Section 5, the art of skillful living, engaging without entanglement. Let's pull all of these philosophical threads and practical examples together. Because knowing this stuff is one thing, but applying it is the true art of skillful living. Now, the source gives a crucial warning here. Beware the spiritual varnish. When you learn these non-dual concepts, that everything is just awareness and nothing can actually harm you, it can become a bit of a trap. You might be tempted to paste over and invalidate your genuine human upsetness by just saying, "Oh, I'm a meditator, nothing bothers me," all while quietly seething inside. That is absolutely not the goal. So here is your roadmap for skillful living. Let's say someone abruptly cuts you off in traffic. Step 1. The adult actively senses the child's real upsetness. Your heart rate spiked, you were startled, and that's valid. Step 2. Evaluate the event. The adult recognizes, okay, that was a dangerous, uncool move. Step 3. Notice the toxic spin. The child wants to rage about how all drivers are terrible and life is just entirely unfair, but the adult sees that spinning this narrative has literally zero value. Step 4. Gracefully let it go. You don't know what's going on in their life, you just release it. True, skillful living means holding two truths at the exact same time. First, you have the absolute truth. You are the perceiver, the timeless consciousness at zero distance from your experience, and fundamentally, nothing can harm you. But you also hold the relative truth. You are still invited to the human party. You still have to show up, engage with the dream, interact with your spouse, and drive your car with grace. That is where the real work happens.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to ponder. Knowing that at the absolute level, nothing is truly threatening the core of who you are, how will you choose to act the next time conflict, fear, or frustration knocks on your door? Will you let the panicked child bar the door, or will you stand tall as the adult, smile, and welcome the guest inside? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next explainer.